There are stories from the past that seem almost too strange to be true. Stories whispered across generations, retold in kitchens, in taverns, in quiet parlours, lit only by lamplight. Tales of jealousy, betrayal and murder in towns so small and peaceful that violence feels like an intruder from another world. The case of Mary Barrows and Oscar Blaney is one of those stories. A 19th century crime that shocked a rural community and forced people to question what they thought they knew about loyalty, marriage and justice. Mary Barrows lived in Kittery, Maine in the early 1880s. She was married to Thomas Barrows, a hard-working farmer, a man who rose before dawn, tended his land with stubborn pride, and believed deeply in order, discipline, and control. On the surface, their life might have seemed ordinary, a modest farm, a blended family, a routine shaped by the seasons. But beneath that surface were tensions that simmered quietly, growing hotter with each passing year, until they finally boiled over into tragedy. Mary had been married before. She brought a daughter from her first marriage into her new life with Thomas. And Thomas never got along with his stepdaughter. He resented her presence. He resented her independence. And he especially resented the young man who came calling for her, a suitor named Oscar Blaney. Thomas believed Mary planned to transfer the deed of their farm to her daughter someday. The idea enraged him. To Thomas, the farm was his legacy, his identity, his life's work. His anger grew fierce. He forbade visits. He forbade courtship. He tried to control every movement, every conversation. At one point, in a moment that would later horrify the community, he forced his stepdaughter to swear at knife point that she would never marry Oscar Blaney. But love, or something like it, pushed back against fear. They married anyway, and Thomas's fury only deepened. By late 1883, Mary and Oscar had reached a terrible conclusion, a conclusion born of resentment, desperation, and a belief that violence was the only escape. They convinced themselves that there would be no peace until Thomas Barrows was dead. So they plotted his murder. On November 14, 1883, Oscar Blaney bought a 5-barrel Colt revolver. He loaded it carefully, one bullet at a time, each metallic click sealing his fate. He hid near the barn on the Barrows farm, waiting in the cold, listening to the wind move through the dry November grass. Inside the house, Mary played her part. She told her husband she heard a noise from the barn, a noise she insisted he should investigate. Thomas, unaware of the trap, stepped outside. When he approached the barn, Blaney emerged from the shadows and fired 4 shots. 3 struck Thomas. He fell to the ground, but he was not dead. Bleeding, stunned, and fighting for life, he managed to crawl back toward the house, dragging himself through dirt and fallen leaves. Instead of fleeing, Mary went to find Oscar. She told him Thomas was still alive. She wanted the job finished. Blaney returned to the house. Inside, they found Thomas sitting on the edge of his bed, groaning in pain, his strength fading. "Oscar, I guess I will go soon," Thomas reportedly said. "Yes, your time has come now," Blaney replied. He fired again. One shot hit Thomas in the hip. Another tore through his hand and into his head. Thomas Barrows was dead. In the frantic aftermath, Mary tried to claim her husband had committed suicide, but the coroner quickly saw the impossibility of that explanation. How could a man shoot himself 5 or 6 times with a 5-barrel revolver? Why were some wounds fired from different distances? Why were the angles inconsistent with self-infliction? There were far too many contradictions, far too many details that refused to fit the story Mary tried to tell. Soon Mary and Oscar were arrested and charged with murder. At the trials that followed, the truth spilled out in grim detail. Oscar testified against Mary, breaking their pact of silence. His cooperation did not absolve him, but it shifted the weight of blame in the eyes of the court. Mary was convicted of first-degree murder. Oscar, after changing his plea, was convicted as well. Both were initially sentenced to be hanged in December of that year, a grim end to a grim tale. But the Governor and Council of Maine later intervened. Oscar's sentence was commuted to life imprisonment, in part because he testified for the state. Mary's execution was postponed, and though the historical record is murky, it appears her sentence was eventually commuted as well. What made this case so shocking to contemporaries was not only the brutality of the murder, but the cold, deliberate planning behind it. This was not a crime of sudden rage. It was premeditated, calculated, carried out by a married woman with the help of her own son-in-law. In the rural world of Maine farm life, the murder challenged deeply held beliefs about family loyalty, marital duty, and the sanctity of the home. Neighbours whispered, newspapers speculated. People struggled to understand how such violence could grow from the soil of an ordinary farm. Modern readers might see timeless themes: jealousy, inheritance disputes, forbidden love, and the desperate choices people make when they feel trapped. But the facts remain stark. Thomas Barrows was killed in cold blood, not once, but twice. First near the barn, and again inside his own home. His death could not be explained away by convenient lies or hastily crafted stories, and Mary and Oscar could not escape the consequences of the choices they made. Even now, more than a century later, the case continues to fascinate true crime enthusiasts and historians alike, not only for its gruesome details, but for what it reveals about 19th century rural American life, the legal system of the era, and the human capacity for betrayal. The farm in Kittery, where it all happened, is long gone. The buildings have vanished, the fields have changed, and the people who lived through the scandal are long buried. But the echoes of that November day remain, a reminder that even in the quiet corners of history, dark deeds can unfold. You've been listening to an audio podcast about the case of Mary Barrows and Oscar Blaney, a tale of jealousy, murder, and a crime that shook a small community in 1880s Maine. If you found this episode interesting, thought-provoking, or informative, please take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with others who enjoy true crime cases and stories from our dark history. Your support helps us continue exploring real cases, real history, and the stories that shaped the past. Thank you for listening. This has been History's Mysterious Minds.